This is probably one of the most interesting and timely conversations today that you're going to get to experience. My friend Kohila Sivas, she's changing the way that education looks, and she's doing it on a wide scale and a vast scale. And we were just having a conversation as we were talking, and she asked me how I enjoyed or how my kids were doing in their schools. And education, you're going to hear from her. It's an incredible viewpoint. We all see as parents, if you're a parent or you have, a niece, a nephew, anything like that, different ideologies, different thought processes, different ways of educating, sometimes you don't agree with. And I'm excited for today to be able to dive deep into, spending some time with an expert on a person who's actually stepping up and changing the face of what education will look like as we move forward. And for me, with having a 15-year-old and having a 13-year-old, having them in school, and sometimes they tell me about things that their teacher said, or sometimes the school is doing. My daughter just got Monday school. I've never even heard of this, but she had Monday school because she had missed 6 periods or something like that. They were unexcused, and this policy just went into play, and we kind of had to play by those rules. And I love the fact that Kohila is giving a solution to not only the parents, the students, but also the teachers on how we can change that and make a difference throughout education as a whole. So I cannot wait to share with you one of my an incredible woman that has inspired me. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Kohila, welcome to the show. It's so incredible to be able to have you. And for me, there's going to be some gripes that I have that you're hopefully going to be able to solve for me. So tell us about this with education. You are not only you didn't only just get a little not angry with it, but you wanted to do something about it. What made you want to do something about it at the level that you're doing it?
Because I couldn't reach the students that needed my help in the classroom as a teacher. That was the beginning of the frustration that I was leaving out, because I'm a suicide survivor. So when I went into teaching, I cracked the codes of math. That's how I survived after my suicide attempt. So I knew that I have a secret to share with my students, and this secret could change people's life. But I thought I could do it in the classroom, but I couldn't. So that was very disappointing for me. So that's when I started noticing all the problems that was happening. And we're trying to deliver curriculum, but nobody is relating to that. And then when they ask, I don't understand, or I don't want to do this, we say we have to do it because we have to finish the curriculum. So how is that an answer for students who don't relate to it or who can't connect with it? So there's a problem that's been going on for like over a long time. I stopped teaching in the classroom 13 years ago. Now that still the problem just got worse and worse where we are at right now.
So what about when you were talking about it, as far as you have the curriculum and you can't connect with the people, there are going to be the people out there that say, well, what about the fact of, that it's not as much a curriculum, that it's the person not being able to connect with the person, the teacher not being able to connect with the people, that it's not as much the curriculum. What would you say to that person?
Yeah. Well, the teacher doesn't have the time to do that. They want to connect. I wanted to connect to all the students at the back of the classroom who were, checking themselves out and daydreaming, which was me, by the way, when I was young as well, because nobody connected with me. I said, I don't belong here. Why am I here? I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. I don't learn this way, right? I was checking myself out and daydreaming all day long in the classroom. No, the teacher couldn't connect because they have 26, 30 kids. How can they? They're supposed to manage the crowd, not manage my mind. But one of the single students sitting in the back, or a couple of students that are not able to connect. So we try, right? Every teacher tries for sure. but it's just impossible to do it.
You think it's impossible? Because the reason why I say it is because, I mean, when you're talking about those classes, those classrooms, 25, 30 kids, I mean, that's what we kind of grew up with. I think about my teacher, Mrs. Hicks, and Mrs. Hicks was on the podcast, and she had a challenge as far as the curriculum, but I tell you, like, every single kid in that classroom knew, like, and had an impact years and years before. So, or later, they still talk about her. How much of it is the curriculum and how much of it is the teacher?
Yeah. The curriculum is everything, because at the end of the day, it's like you will get in trouble if you're not finishing and getting that student ready for the test or the exam that test us even, right? That's how I get tested too as a teacher. That's my mark. Like, the administrators want to see what's the result of my class. If they're not performing, then that's on me as well, right? So there's a huge pressure for it to deliver it and make sure those students are doing well. So we need to push the curriculum through it and get the testing done and get the marks going. Now everybody, like a lot of kids are failing, so now then I have to address it individually, right? But every student needs different help, though. There's not a standardized help that I can give. So when you remember a teacher like yourself, you just mentioned, that teacher goes out of their way. They sacrifice a lot of their time to help those people out of their way. But how much can a teacher sacrifice, though? Currently, we have students who are on so many different learning disabilities and so many different diagnosed learning disabilities that a classroom of 26 at least have 10 to 12 kids who need special attention. Special attention, right? Beyond just connecting and helping them. So for that reason, currently it's impossible what's being asked of the teachers, even worse than what it was 12 years ago.
Is it the class size then, and more teachers, or is it the way in which the teacher would be teaching?
The curriculum itself and how we test students, secondly. Okay. Third is the way that our society has become where students don't see the purpose of learning anymore. They are being forced into this classroom. Majority of them, I'm not saying all of them, majority of them don't see the point. They're like, I can watch this on YouTube in 3-5 minutes. Why am I in here learning for 5 weeks? I don't get it. And when am I going to use this? Like, there's a lot of things that being asked by students. So they're basically going to the classroom as forced. Many of them are.
Is this regional? Is this cultural as far as areas? Because, when you're saying that part of it, I have, my son, 13 years old, he goes through it. He has a teacher, Mr. Bruck, that literally Mr. Bruck hung the moon. He loves going to his class. He loves learning in there. He learns a ton from it. He's got another teacher I'm not going to mention that he a lot of times gets a headache when he goes in. But are you finding, because that's a generalization as far as no kid wants to go to school, are you finding that all over the place, or is it in regional parts or in places where maybe the education doesn't have as much budget, or where is this happening?
It's all over. When I say that general, it is the trend, right? So for me, I think the education system has to revamp. It's time for a change. It needs to rebuild on a new purpose, a new mission, new purpose, right? We are in a new place right now. The new old way is not working. For many, it's not working. Even if it's working, then that person is trying hard, or they have, as you said earlier, the family structure, right? Many students don't have the family connection or structure as your family might have, or other families might be involved with. So when that's missing, and now we have a lot of parents who are single families, right? Separated. So there's a lot of things that are going on in family structure right now as well that also contributes to this problem of students not being feeling I don't belong. I don't know why I'm doing this. What's the purpose of this? And then most of the time, the answer we have is we have to go take you through the curriculum. Yeah. So let's go.
So I dealt with this in business because, most of the time when we were building kids, most of the time we were dealing with repairing things that had happened at home. And then we would deal with the core principles of what our company was, right? But how much of this lays on the parents and on the families, as opposed to switching up the educational program to try and fix something that needs to be fixed at home?
Yeah, it's 100% in the parents' hands. Nobody cares about our children than us, right? The school system is a system. It's an institution. They're not going to care about us. Our kids, we need to care about our kids. That's why I wrote a book called The Cracking the Parenting Codes this February of this year. I launched it because I was working with teachers fixing the education system. But as I was fixing it and as I was helping those so many parents and families, I noticed that parenting has become a problem. Many parents are not in the driver's seat anymore. They're like, I don't know. I don't know how to deal with my child anymore. I have no idea what to do with them. So they're just like looking for help. And on the internet space, on the world wide web, there's so much information, but you need to look through them because they're not always correct. So whose advice do I take?
Yeah. What were some of the tools that you were giving parents to be able to like cracking this code? Because I mean, I need the answers. I've got a 13-year-old, I got a 15-year-old, and I need the system so I would just like to be a perfect dad. Kohila, is that too much to ask?
No, perfect is not possible, but close to perfect is possible. It's possible. But I think you're already doing it. You're already doing it because I've seen you in person as well as your kids. It's the connection, right? We're so connected through all the online stuff and everything. Everybody, I can reach anybody at any time today, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we're so isolated and disconnected authentically.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I want to fix in the families as well. You can't just exist in under the same roof and you have to text your son or daughter to call them downstairs. You see what I mean? So that culture of my son or daughter needs a phone. If the phone becomes a problem, it's a tool. I, as a mom or dad, has the authority to take that away from them.
Okay.
They don't own it. It's not a tool that they need to survive. It's not an oxygen tank. It's not. If it's an unhealthy behavior, as a parent, I have to step in and help my child, right? So we are in my opinion, parenting is like a partnership. Together, we're in a business. If I think about it in the business sense, it's a business that we're together. We're co-creating this life for our kids, right? I'm co-creating with my son, my 17-year-old.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not an authoritative parent. I'm not just going to let him do whatever he wants. He needs to see my invincible barriers that I set up for him, the boundaries. And within that, he can explore. When he goes beyond that, he should look back and say, Mom, what do you think about this? Can I go do this? So that's where our guidance comes in, right? I have to be his guide.
How do you, when you were talking about like it's a business partnership, I think about it like if it was a business partnership, I got a really broke employee that shows up when they want to show up. You know what I'm saying? That's a different type of partnership. I don't know what I'm going in partnership with my son or my daughter right now because, you know, and not to say that I don't love them and I won't walk them through, but what do you say to the parent that says like, this is not a, you know, we're going to walk through this together. I want to wait till my kid looks back and asks me, is this okay? How do we navigate these things? And again, like what's a tool that a person could put in place to be able to help that to happen?
It's communication.
Okay.
Communication.
Where does it start?
Like for example, my son, he was in 2 years ago, he was in school full time. And he came and told me that, you know, my friends have gone in this way. I'm also going in this direction. First, he denied it, of course, right? When I asked him, something's wrong, something's going on. You don't look the same. Tell me what's going on. So then he said, nothing. And then he eventually came after 2 weeks and said, there's something going on, Mom. I have to talk to you. And then when he came out and said, and I asked him, why did you tell me this now? Before I asked, you never shared. He said, I don't want to lie to you because you trust me so much.
That's awesome.
So there's no way I could have, I could have asked for anything more. And that path that he was going to take, it's a dangerous path for him. It would have ended in a pretty bad situation. So for him to feel like I'm actually doing something that's going to hurt me, but hurt my mom, hurt trust, those were things I developed because I spent so much time with him. Communication, connecting authentically with my son. He believes that my mom needs to know this. And that's missing, I think, in a lot of families. We're just living day by day and, it's in and out, but we need to authentically connect with our kids.
How can we authentically connect with them? What's the difference between like what we would think is connecting and then authentically connecting with them?
So when's the last time you had one-on-one time with your child without any distractions in your life? I would ask. Like any distraction, that includes any phone, nothing. Just
Uh-huh.
pure one-on-one time where you're just hanging out and just enjoying each other's company. Where, and also I love another thing that I learned from another psychologist is that the best way to talk to your kids is to go for a walk, because when you sit across from them and you talk, they see you as an authoritative figure, so they don't share much. So going for a walk, you're just side by side, so they don't need to look at your face, they can just share information with you. So that's a good way to connect, walking.
What about the person that now, as we start to talk about, obviously the family and then the education goes in line. What about the person that says, well, if we fix the family, because there are the extreme sides of these viewpoints, if we fix the family, then we don't really need to work on the curriculum.
No, the system has to. The school system was designed for industrial revolution at that time to produce factory workers. We don't need them anymore. We're ready to produce AI who can do factory work. We don't need our children to go and become a mold of something else, right? We're already creating AIs. It was launched yesterday or something, right? Elon Musk launched that robot, right?
Uh-huh.
So why do we need to create robots? Our children don't need to become a robot. They just need to find their authentic self, and that education currently doesn't allow that. That exploration is missing in the current system.
And so when you're talking about like, half the kids out of, 30 kids, half the kids have special needs, special needs as far as the educational side, things like that. How do we solve that challenge? Again, because when I look at it, and again, I'm not an expert on it. That's why I like to hang out with you, because I don't have to be an expert. In my head, then I think, well, oh, wow, we got to have more teachers, lower, a lower class count. We've got to be able to do that. But therein lies a challenge also, because we've got to recruit more people into the educational system if that's the case. And how do we solve this puzzle?
Yeah, less students with more teachers, one way to solve it. But I also know that schools are now going towards having the curriculum and the testing and the grading done by AI, fully automated by AI. And then there's one school in Texas which has fired all their teachers and had hired just workers, because they can just manage the crowd now, because everything is done by this AI program that's been developed. So that's also coming. That movement is happening as we speak, right?
Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that part of it?
If we still have the focus on curriculum and we need to get our kids through a standardized way to set up on a competitive level that everybody learns the same thing, yes, that's needed. And then maybe the shift I'm hoping and praying is that the teachers are not getting fired, but they get more training to work one-on-one or more intimate with these kids who need those extra emotional support, social support, the learning support they need, that which the machine can't give. Because my program is that the one I developed is never can be replaced by AI. It's human connection. It's based on authentic connection and relationship building and care, right? So therefore, this machine can do what we do now, take the machine job to the machine and let the human job to really go to the humans who want to serve their students from their heart, who are passionate teachers.
What about the challenge that you as you look at where, okay, so if we have a crowd of 30 kids, right? 15 of them need to have really specialized care.
Yeah.
What happens to the kid that doesn't need that now doesn't get as much attention because they actually don't need it? How do we bridge that part of it? No, I'm just talking about like the self-starter kid, the kid who is working through a lot of times. That kid sometimes, and I've seen it happen before. I've even seen it in my family where, I've had, they've worked at a very high level, worked their butt off, they're a self-starter, all the stuff. And then the kids who maybe need a little bit more, things get slanted for them and they don't get does that make sense? That can cause frustration also. So how do you solve that?
Yeah, I don't think it should be only given to the people who are struggling in the classroom. This care that I just talked about
Yeah.
could be for everyone. The teacher has 15 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day for every child in that classroom, where they're authentically connecting, caring, and looking at their social emotional well-being at the same time. So that becomes holistic. Right now, the program that we're running in the classrooms are not holistic at all.
Okay.
It's just some parts are being delivered, other parts are missing, right?
So you just said 15 to 20 minutes, like
Yeah.
even if it's 10, if we do math, if we are doing math and you're really, really good with math, if we just do the math on that, that's not going to be able to, I mean, you're literally going to have to quadruple the amount of teachers that you would need in a school to be able to make that happen.
There's a lot of teachers available.
Yeah.
There is.
Could we quadruple the amount, and then where does that funding come from?
It has to be there. It's already available. It's just they need to reallocate where they're spending it,
Okay.
or recuperate more. And that's why they charge a lot of property taxes on houses and stuff. Well, this is the
Hold on. I live in stop that. You need to stop the bus right there, Kohila, because I live in one of the most expensive places in the whole entire world, in Carlsbad, California. And now when you're speaking, we're all loving on you, but when you said that we need to recoup a little bit more and raise our taxes so we could have quadruple amount of teachers, I mean, come on, sister. Like that's going to cause you to be an unpopular lady right there.
But it's already happening, though. I'm just saying, let's put the money towards where it's supposed to go.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's already happening. Like, I pay a lot in Vancouver. I live in West Vancouver, one of the richest places in Canada, right? Or world, I think. It's supposed to be expensive. So I'm paying for it, but I don't see it in where it's supposed to go to.
Makes sense.
I want it to go to the end result of it.
Yes. How can that happen? How can we push towards that happening? Because, as you know, I know Vancouver's literally one of the most expensive places in the world. How can we start to move that part of it where a person, a parent out there that's maybe not in government or whatever it is, they're like, I just don't know what to do. How do I start? How does a person start to
speak up?
Okay.
You're the parent. You have all the power.
Wow.
You have all the power. You have to speak up. Parents have been so quiet, and they know that the education system is not serving their kids. There's a lot of things that are happening in the school system. You got to speak up. And my husband and I spoke up. We actually sent letters to the superintendent.
Okay.
Of what they're teaching, what they're doing during class times. It's not appropriate. You need to stop this, because this is not why we send our kids to school. There's a place and thing for everything. So let's just go through this. And it was like, no, it was not accepted. It was thrown in the garbage. So parents have to speak up. If more people speak up, it's going to be a bigger volume that they have to deal with. But we're not speaking up. We're just taking it as, this is what it is. We got to take it.
What were some of the things that you started to have a challenge with that were, being, your child was being exposed to? And I think he's such a cool kid, by the way. I loved spending time with him at Prosperity Camp. He's an incredible guy. I love him. Please tell him I said hello too.
Yeah, thank you. The things that I'm afraid right now that's happening is that kids are not being held accountable for their missing works. Like, I think you started off saying your daughter was held back for Monday school or something, right?
Yeah.
But there's another trend that's happening where they're making the kids, like, for example, in Vancouver right now, you don't get any grades until grade 10. You're not going to be graded. You're just going to be said, you're doing well, you're progressing, you should try a little harder, like these kind of little wishy-washy statements. So until like grade 10, I'm just floating around. I'm going, yeah, I'm doing great. I guess I should improve, but great, good job, right? And then in grade 10, they introduce the grading system, and then you get marked, and you're like, what is that? I'm 50%. I thought I was doing great all this along. Like, it's not appropriate. You're slamming these kids in grade 10 when everything gets hard to do accept something. I'm like, I don't know how to deal with 50%. I've never got these things before. So they're setting them up for failure pretty much.
Is this across Canada, or is this just in Vancouver?
Currently, it's running in Vancouver, all over British Columbia. This is the new system they adopted last year, where you don't get grades until grade 10.
Oh my gosh. We are not dealing with that. I mean, we're
No,
not
not
dealing with
yet.
that here. Well, it would have been unbelievable for me as a kid. I would have been like, yeah, this is awesome. You know what I mean? Until 10th grade. And then the reckoning happens. What were some of the other things that you guys are dealing with that
kids
are,
kids have access to everything. It happens in the outside of the school grounds. There's a way to stop this, but there's also a way to not stop it. So I see that that's a huge problem for kids accessing any sort of drugs or anything like that, especially marijuana, which puts you off anything you want to do. You just become a vegetable and just go
yeah.
with the flow, live life with the
Is it
flow.
legal there in Vancouver?
Yep, you
It
can
is?
buy it, but
Okay.
kids can't buy it, of course. But kids can get it. Kids can get
Yeah,
anything,
of
right?
course.
That's a
Even
problem.
before it was, yeah.
Anything was possible. It's just even if it's going to be, but I think there needs to be a lot of education, and then there's a lot of vaping. There was a lot of episodes of kids just dying with vaping, which is these vapes comes from overseas, and nobody's monitoring what's in them. It's full of crap. They're
Uh-huh.
smoking and killing themselves, right? So that's another big one that started. And that happens anywhere and everywhere, because at least the cigarette they have to go smoke outside. There was a smell. Now the vape, you can just do it in the class.
Yeah. So
Right.
you've created a leadership company that's over 350. Am I correct? That
Yes.
you've trained. So
Yes.
how does a person get involved with that, and what's that process, and what does it look like? What does the Kohila curriculum look like?
Yeah. So I've created a model based on what I went through as a child to train my mind to accept what life is and how to solve problems in life. Then through the process of working with students over the last 25 years, I've actually created the methodology that can work with students holistically and also train them at the neurological level so that the wiring is shifted so they can always be in a resourceful state. Because a lot of the time we say I can't do it is because I don't know the resources are available. I have declared to myself it's
Mm,
not available, I can't do it, no one's going to show me, so I'm dumb, I'm an idiot, so I should just stop trying. So if we keep saying all of those again and again, we believe our own narrative and story. So I have a way of retraining that with students. I can go to the exact root cause of those thoughts and those negative narratives, and we retrain them. When we do that, they are holistically changing themselves and improving, and that transformation is permanent. So any tutoring, any other program, you might see a result, but you get to go back to the old version very quickly. It doesn't sustain. With our students, they sustain it. They are empowered forever. So that's the biggest difference. That's why I always say we're not tutors, we're more than teachers, we're holistic neurogrowth learning success coaches. Now a coach is someone who empowers the person to figure out their own solution. We don't give you the solution, we put you in the power seat so you can find the solution, right? So that's the students we bring out. From a student who's
how long does that process take, and can that be done in a group, or is that all individual one-on-one?
first is always individual, because everybody's blocks and everybody's stories are different and we need to identify. So first process is always individual, but after they go through a year of this training with one-on-one intervention, then they can move into group coaching. And they actually, before even that, they can even lead somebody because they are empowered. And like, we need minimum 3 months for
Okay.
any change to happen. We need 3 months. It's always a 3 month start.
So where could a kid find the time to be able to be coached for a year or even 3 months? Where is this time? How much is the time? And, how can a person figure out and get in touch with those type of resources?
Yeah. So when a student or a parent approaches us, they usually ask, can you tutor our child, right? Because that's the most, that's what everybody knows about. This is a new thing, right? So they don't know. So they approach me, can you tutor them, or can you help them, or how much is your service, right? So then I have to change that conversation into, okay, I can't help you without knowing what's the problem here. What are we looking for? What am I going to sell you? So there's a whole process of onboarding and the whole process of doing a 360-degree analysis of the student and their belief system, so we can get an idea where the problem is. And then from there, we build the program. So usually it happens after school for many students or on the weekends, right? Those are the times that we meet with them. So that's where we would meet. But for parents, it's the clarity is the most important, because they think you may think your child is struggling in math, but I can tell you that they're not struggling in math. They're not struggling in math. It's not math. Math is not a problem. That's what you see, right? But I see that as a block somewhere else. And if I could figure out that block and I give them the skill sets in math, they're able to do it.
Wow. Is this
They're,
done? Is this done online? Does it have to be done in person?
no, it's all online. So we
All
work
online.
with, yeah, I work with students in Ireland, Malaysia, Singapore. It's all over the world. We can work with anywhere. And I have my own platform where I've created along with the company that I train my coaches on.
Uh-huh.
They're all independent coaches, so they can meet. And this platform itself is revolutionary because you can actually engage with the students in three different ways. It's not just a whiteboard. You sit and watch each other draw and write. We actually have a 3D world where it's like a Minecraft, where we can move around and play and do things and learn for younger kids with ADHD and all that. This is like a playground that we can coach them inside of. So that's very unique to our process as well.
And how does this get to the masses? Because this, I mean, with 360, right? 360 coaches that you have, 360 coaches, if you're doing, if you're working with, let's call it 4 kids each, 360, let's say that it's 1,600, about 1,500 kids. We just, 1,500 kids throughout the country, and that would be every teacher doing 4 of them a day. That would be 1,600. How can this come to the masses? How can an educational program as opposed to an individual? Because there are the people that maybe couldn't afford to be able to do it. How can that happen in the future?
Yeah, I'm partnering up currently with nonprofit organizations. I just partnered up with Help. So through that, we're going to offer free coachings to those students who would never see this type of coaching, right? So that's one way, because we do have a mission to serve 1.5 million students by 2035. So I know that's big, but I never ask how, because God knows how. I just need to declare that it's going to happen. So people ask me, how are you going to do that? I'm like, it's in the works. It's going to happen, right? So one of the ways is serving the underprivileged or this children in needs. That's one way. I do want to take this inside the classrooms. That's possible because clearly it works. All the teachers who have taken the program has used it in the classroom, even in a group setting, and they say it works really well. It changed the way they work with their students in the classroom as well. So I know it's working. I have proofs that it's working, but I don't know if it's the right time to enter with it in a system that's crumbling at the moment.
So is it a way, is there a way when you said, the group side of it, that it does work with the group side of it? Does this mean that the classroom sizes have to change? Do they have to shrink? Because say like our place, Carlsbad High. Okay. We got multiple, high schools, as I'm sure Vancouver does, because you guys are quite populated. My daughter's school is probably 3,500 to 4,000 kids. And then you've got San Marcos, who is, I would say, my daughter's is like 3,500, and then you got San Marcos that's about 5,000, 4,000 or 5,000, and then you've got different pockets of schools all around. Does the class size have to change? Do we have to have more schools? If we have more schools, we have to have more teachers, or do we just have to have more teachers in the existing schools that we have?
That could work, but first of all, the teachers needs to be trained. They're not trained to do a lot of these things, right? Okay. And we need to hire people who are trained in ADHD, autism, learning disabilities. These teachers don't have any training in any of those areas, but they are dealing with them. So those kind of specialized training for that and hiring help for that will give back some time for the teacher, right? Okay. To work on other things, as well as I said, as we go into AI is something that I really appreciate. It has changed my life since it has come into the world. So I really think that if we still need the curriculum, because I do think that curriculums are important foundation for our kids, because if we're going to be globally competitive, that is a must, right? So in a certain field, it's a must. Like if you're going to go into engineering, doctor, pharmaceutical or accounting or any of that things, you need to have the foundational, which is what curriculum should be doing, laying the foundations. That's fine. But if that could go to AI, which I think AI would do a great job, but AI cannot replace the human teacher, where they could do the care and the connection and everything for the students that are in the classroom.
Do you think the first step is to go to the masses, or is it to do more of the individual to be able to gain the social proof? I mean, you've already got the proof because you've got the results, but obviously as you go along, the more and more proof that you have, the easier that is to be able to sell to larger institutions. Or do you go towards the larger institutions and then try and bring it back to the individual?
For me, larger institution mean you then bend to their requirements.
Okay.
You need to become a powerful force before you can enter something like that, because there's a lot more power in systems like that. So then you just have to bend, and then you lose your authentic program inside of it, and you just lost everything. So I'm not interested in doing that.
There's an exercise that I've done. It's a very simple one. It's called if and then, right? If this happened, then it would make this easier. What would be your if and then with this educational side as you move forward?
I think fully training the AI to take over the curriculum, if that's a must.
Okay. So if
that's a must.
AI was able to take over the curriculum that we have now, right?
Yep.
So if that, then what would happen?
Then the teachers would get freed up, because they don't no longer have to do the grading or the curriculum delivery. They can just administer that on the computer, right? AI can do that. And the teachers now have the freedom. So what are they going to do with all their time? Spend time.
Wow. What are the are you familiar with killboarding something?
Yeah.
So obviously, like what are some of the things that instantly people will resist with this? Like when they try and killboard it right away, like, no, this isn't going to happen, that you maybe see like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. Or is it just, it doesn't make any sense not to use this?
I think the first one might come from teachers, because I've already heard it from them, is their imposter syndrome will just flare up, and they will be like, how am I going to do what you're asking me to do? That's where training comes in, right? That's where I can see a full-on training for them, because at the school level where they become teachers, nobody gets training on any of this stuff. Very little training on it. So they're going to feel imposter, want somebody telling them, we're going to change your job description and this is what you're going to do now. They're going to be like, how do I do it? Give me the skills, give me the house, right? So we need to have training. That's number one. Number two is in resistance against, okay, can a teacher from the administrative side, maybe can they administer this properly, and how would that look like? Maybe the parents might say, how do you know how to equally spread yourself among all the students? Maybe you'll favoritize somebody and not do the other one. Like, what is the protocol, right? What would that structure look like to be fair and square and be open to everyone? Because sometimes some teachers connect better with one student than the other student. Right? Well, so how do we keep that balance?
Well, but also too, I mean, there's going to be that's the human side. That was the next question I was going to ask, is the favoritism part. Is, I would like to say, I mean, in coaching people, like when I'm talking about coaching my son and football and things like that, I've always got, favorites on the team, and those favorites on the team generally they're not the most talented, but generally they have the best attitude. They are helpful, things like that. If you were talking to the parents and you said, this will make my job easier and this will make education move to a completely different realm, which will ultimately help your child, what would that be? What would that conversation be to the parent that is listening?
I think when that model comes in play, I think the parent and the teacher should work together. They should become a team. Like in my program currently, whenever I work with the parent and family, they are part of our team. I'm not their coach only. I'm not coach to their son or daughter. I'm also coach to them as well as a parent. Otherwise, I don't take people without that involvement, because I want them through the whole process okay with what we're doing, and it's in alignment with their values, right? So I'm not doing something that's against them or they don't like it. So in that case, there should be a partnership built between the parent. It should be a smooth transition from home into the school life. It shouldn't be two separate places. Right now, it exists as two separate places. Most parents do not like their teacher for their kids because they said something or this was done, right? There's a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding throughout the process, a lot of finger pointing. It's your fault, not my fault. As a parent, we blame the teacher blames the parent, and then both of them blames the admin blames the teacher. Like, it's just a cycle of blame, which is what I've experienced and experiencing currently with many teachers who are leaving the system. That's what they're saying, that parents don't understand me. I'm trying to help, but they don't understand what my other side of my life looks like, right? Where I have so many things to take care of. So I think in this new model, there will be a partnership.
And
That's important.
let's talk to the teachers. I'd like to talk about the teachers because there are teachers that have left education. They started in and wanted to help people. They wanted to do the stuff. There was a couple of reasons. Number one, I think the number one is the financial side. And a lot of times in a privatized, education scenario, that teacher can make more or can be compensated at a higher level, not always at private schools, but I'm just talking about in the private sector. How do you then battle with that part of it to be able to keep, because it would be good if everybody had privatized, right? Like, hey, they're going to be in the coaching side of it, work with Kohila, work with your systems, work all the way through. For that to happen, I mean, that's a very large undertaking for all of them to. How can we keep the teachers and make sure that they're okay in the public school system that we have?
More training, direct training. So right now, because parents are not parenting, they're following a new parenting style called gentle parenting or positive parenting, which is extremely, in a good way, it's good, but at the same time, it's very, very bad for your child because you're now letting a child, they're not grounded. They don't know their boundaries. They're just doing, you're reactive. You're growing them in a reactive situation all the time. So that just follows with the behavioral pattern that's going to be very reactive, which is going to make you even more reactive. So we have a reactive situation that's happening in every household. So that alone, just that step alone, we don't fix that, we're going to have so many kids when they enter the school system going to be diagnosed with ADHD immediately. That alone, just this parenting situation happening alone, could be resulting in a lot of kids becoming diagnosed as ADHD because they can't ground themselves. They can't listen. They cannot stay in one place. They want to move. They want to be reactive, but we're not letting them because classroom is not a reactive place. It's a calm, sit down, listen to me, watch me, be quiet place. It's not possible. So I'm talking to hundreds of teachers in a month. They're telling me I'm a grade 1, grade 2 teacher, grade 1, grade 2. The behavior of the kids I have never seen in my life. I don't know what to do with them. I have 26 of these kids. They all are very reactive and explosive. I don't know what to do with them. Why? Because this whole life has become this way. Now it's reflecting there. So right after that, what the teachers say to the admin, this is how people get diagnosed, kids get diagnosed. We would point out that they can't sit, they can't focus, they can't get their attention in alignment. Now that is a sign of ADHD. So let's diagnose them with ADHD. What does that mean? Some parents will be told, some parents will accept it, some parents will deny it, and then that's medication maybe. So we're going to have a generation of the current grade 1 and 2 are in big trouble if we don't fix the parenting.
So how much of the ADHD part of it, how much is that environmental and experience as opposed to it being a part of the child? Because what I'm hearing from you is the more reactive that the family is, and especially, I mean, it's the age old, especially, everybody complains. This generation complains about the other, the generation that's coming up. Oh, you don't work as hard. You can't focus. But I heard that same thing from my dad. And although people say they're on devices all the time. I was playing Nintendo growing up as a kid. It was a big, huge cabinet device. I couldn't hold it in my hand. It weighed like 500 pounds. So I couldn't carry it around. But if I could have, I would have carried it around. how much of the ADHD, the ADD, all these things are environmental and can be worked. Because what I'm hearing is what it sounds like, and I could be incorrect on this, is that muscle, that it's a muscle, and that muscle can be retrained.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It can be retrained, but what I'm saying is the way that we're so connected to this phone and everything. The children are exposed to this iPad or phone very early in the days, right? So they're at a speed that no classroom teacher is going to be able to imitate that speed.
Yeah.
There's a slowness to everything. It's just like came down on you, and the kids are feeling, this is not, I don't like this. I want to be up here doing this stuff. What are you doing telling me to do this? I don't know what focus looks like. Right now, the biggest deficit is attention. I mean, all of us could attention, getting ourselves to pay attention, to settle down, and then get into that concentrated mode and do a flow state and do something for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes at time is very hard for all of us. Even I am one of those people too, because we are in an environment where it's so fast and we're consuming information at a different speed. So we all are learning. But can you imagine what the children have to go through, right? That's just, it's hard. It's hard for them. So that's why I'm saying parents have to be aware. It's not easy parenting kids. I know a lot of people might say that was like that for my mom and dad too, but it's never easy. And it's not easy right now because, you said in Nintendo, I also grew up playing Nintendo all the time too. But we had structure because that Nintendo sat in our living room, right? It didn't sit in my bedroom or my bathroom. I couldn't take it with me. So my parents knew exactly when I was playing, right? They knew what I was playing. Now, your child can be watching and doing anything, and we do not know. And that's scary because there's no filter on the internet for anybody. It's very scary. There's a lot of young boys, girls who are exposed to things that you and I never got exposed. We had something called, the hours where this is the cartoon hours, right? There was restrictions on the TV that they wouldn't put anything to do with nudity or anything like that on the TV at certain hours. Now, internet, you can go 24/7, search anything. There's no barriers. There's nothing. And
How
then we
much
have social media. On top of it.
how much of that too, like I look at it and I completely agree with you. How much of it though is that our generation is just jealous that they have the exposure? Because I could tell you this, if I would have had the ability to be able to have this bad boy when I was 12 years old, I would have had it too. I would have used it. If I would have had the ability to be able to be like, hey, I'm a sports fan. Tell me this stat before I walked into I would have done it. Like, are we going to have the same conversation in 20 years? Because we're, us, our or the kids that are coming about in 20 years literally are probably not going to be driving cars. And we're going to say like autonomous cars are just causing you to not be able to like, how can we embrace that? But what I love about you is you're embracing the AI and the human connection too. How can a person, because it feels like a lot of times you have to choose. Do I want to embrace the technology or do I want to just have the personal connection? You seem to have both of them. How have you been able to mix the two?
Yeah, I also think the phone is a tool. So you're right, it's a tool, and I see it as a tool all the time. When it becomes not a tool is when we don't set boundaries for our young kids. The world is not going to set boundaries for our kids, what's good and what's bad, right? Exposing your child to something that's inappropriate at an early stage. That's why a lot of people right now is having relationship issues. They cannot be in intimate relationships. There's a dating site is like, it's a bad situation. I have a lot of friends who cannot be in a marriage. You cannot find a partner because every guy or every girl just wants to hook up, right? That's what they say all the time, because that has changed the way we are approaching relationship. It wasn't like that before. There was pure, authentic relationship. It was more than just getting together for fun, right? It was different. So I watched a advertisement that was filmed in Finland, where they were exposing how bad internet is and how much we need to take it seriously as parents. Is that there was two people comes to a door and they knock, and they're like They don't have a lot of clothes on. The mom opens the door, and then she said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Oh, we're good friends with your son. Is he upstairs? We come and see him every night. He's always watching us do stuff." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" Because they're dressed up as porn stars. So this mom is looking at it, and then the mom says, calls the son, and he comes, and he's busted at that moment because he's watching. That's what he was watching. Now those people are coming to visit him to the
Oh my
door.
gosh.
Our mom is terrified when she sees it at the doorsteps, but this is happening in her house every day upstairs in the bedroom. So we don't let strangers through our door, but we let anybody and everybody come to our kids' bedroom through their phone. How is that okay? That's where I say, just like you won't open the door and say, "Go, stranger, and spend time with my son or daughter in the room," you have to think of the phone that way. It's a tool, but there is boundaries because they're exposed to everything and they do not know what's good and what's bad.
How can a person get in touch with, like, if say I'm a teacher out there and I want to, like, this sounds good to me. Like, I want to be able to really make a difference, but and I want to be able to make it on that, whether it be in a group setting or an individual setting, I really want to do that. How long does a person has to go through training, and how can they get in touch with your curriculum and system?
Yeah. The program itself is 6 months program. So during that time, they learn how to relearn what they learned in this teaching school, so they can relearn and unlearn what's important for to become an empowered coach. So first step is to become an empowered coach, then learn the methodology and the business aspect of it, because I do teach them all the business systems and processes that I've created for me to work online, find students, close them, and all that. So all of that as a business in a box together takes 6 months. And after that training, they can launch their own independent coaching business, and they can start taking students. They work with 5 to 20 students is my maximum I tell them to work with, because in this holistic relationship, you cannot work with hundreds of students. You just have to dedicate yourself to those 5 to 20 students. And most of our coaches who are successfully running the business only work with 4 to 16. They don't even touch 20. They don't need it. They're making good money. They're serving. They're so happy with the results. They have these amazing families who value them as experts and their family member. So it's just a beautiful relationship. So that's the program for teachers. We have our website called learningsuccesscoaches.com. They can just apply, and now we are there's an application. They can apply and see if they qualify for it.
Well, we're going to have all the links. Tell me this: who shouldn't have their child coached by your program?
Who shouldn't? Oh, who's looking for marks? If you're just like, I need my child to get the next grade up, because I was a tutor before all of this, right? I did that for many years. I had a big tutoring company, which I had physical location with hundreds of students going through my program. But everybody came to me as, Kohila, I'm going to bring them to you. I'm going to pay you as little as possible. And I know you have the magic pills. Please give them those and get them to do the next test perfect. That was the order. And I took it on in the beginning of the days, because you don't know, right? You don't know better. I said, yeah, sure. You sure? Yes, I have those magic pills, don't I? And then I got into trouble because the kid didn't. That's when I realized, from working with over 1,600 plus students, I realized that kids don't need math help, because I was specialized in math. They needed their mind work done. I need to cultivate their mind soil. I didn't need to do the math work. Math work is easy. When they're ready to receive, you just give them the math knowledge and they take it and they can go apply it in any way that they are asked. But when I'm pushing this information into them, it's just like forceful execution of, take the information, learn it. It doesn't work. So that's why I started cultivating their mind soil. That's what I do now.
So let's talk to a couple of different people right now. So you're going to give 3 things to each one of them. Administration. What would be 3 simple things that you would give, like you would say to administrator to be able to move this thing forward? What would they be?
Yeah. So there's a lot of administrators who are coming in new. They're young. So you're young. You need to remember that experience is huge. over age and experience is huge. So there's a lot of youth out there who are not listening to the people who have been in the industry for so long, and they are tend to mistreat them by saying, you don't know, I got the title, just listen and do it, right? So that needs to shift. You have to be open to learn from especially those experienced one. Even if you don't take it and apply it as it is, you must listen to it. You have to be a good listener to be a great leader, right? So that's very important for anybody out up in the top levels, administrators. And the other thing is curriculum is designed to deliver this content that's in structured form, but that is not why we're here, right? There has to be adjustments needed, and the only person who will know those adjustments are the teachers who spend the time in the classroom. You don't have that information. You just come for 1 minute or 2 minutes, do your observation. You will not know which student needs what. You have to listen to the teacher who spends the 6-7 hours with those students, right? They're your resources. Instead, you're fighting them. You're putting them in a place of, you don't know what you're saying, you're doing it wrong, let me tell you how to do it, right? This is not going to help you. It's actually going to make your job harder as an administrator, because if you just ask and just work very co-create this, it's going to be easy for their life, but they're not doing it. That's a second thing. And I know that a lot of administrators have another level that pressures them. So we can go up to that level and say that you can't just make rules from your office. You got to come down to the classroom, spend time. From there, you can then make the rules to the higher level. So it needs to go the other opposite direction to what we're doing right now.
Awesome. What about if you had those three things to teachers and you were speaking to teachers, what would it be?
Speak up. Just because you have a job, you don't just sit and take whatever comes your way. You got to speak up. If you got 15 students that's diagnosed with ADHD, autism, learning disability, and you say and you sign a contract and you sit there whole year going, how am I going to do this? And go home stressed out, burned out, trapped. These are the words they use now. Trapped, stuck, burned out. You're using all those words. You're not going to be a good teacher. Nobody who's trapped and stuck ever going to deliver good energy to anyone. So you have to stop. You're not serving yourself. You're not serving your students. You're not serving your family. What is the point? So you have to say to the administrators, yeah, I know I got a job, but this job is impossible to do. So help me. Ask for help. Stand up for your, what's needed. Get the help, and make sure that you take care of yourself, because many of them sacrifice so much that they just don't even know themselves anymore. Yeah. Very bad situation for them.
What would you say to the parents?
I think I've already said that earlier about parents. Parents have to speak up to the system. The system is not a babysitting place. Many parents use it as babysitting centers. It's not a babysitting. It's actually a very, very important center where your child is learning a lot, right? They're learning a lot, and you need to know what they're learning. You cannot just let the system teach and say, okay, they're teaching. You need to be involved. You need to be involved. If you become a parent, it's not, I don't think parenting is hard. I've actually earlier said it was hard, and you kind of agreed on. I don't think it's beautiful, but you need to be involved. I mean, it's the biggest pleasure that I've had. If I didn't have Jay, I don't think I could have been the person I am today. Yeah. He changed my world. He changed who I am. He made me try things I've never did in my life. He's because of him, I did things I would have never done it, right? So I should be thankful that I had my child, that they are the reason I went through these experiences. If it wasn't that, what would I have done? I don't know, right? So for that reason, I think parenting is not hard. It's a journey that everybody must enjoy. And I see a lot of older generations giving younger generation advices these days. And they say, don't have kids. It's so bad. I'm like, don't say that. Don't say that. It's not bad. It's actually a growth. It's a growth that we go through. It's a life that we go through where both of us are growing. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. So why would you tell? And then what is the point of life? What is the point of life? Work and get stuff and buy stuff and visit places. But what is the point? At the end of the day, when I was sad, when my business wasn't doing good, like about 13 years ago or 12 years ago, My son wrote a piece of paper to me, and where he drew a mountain, and I was at the bottom almost, and he said, "Mom, it looks like you're not successful now, but I want you to take one step back." This is a very little boy who's writing this to me. "One step back and think about it, Mom, and one day your business will be the future generation will want to be part of." He told me this a long time ago. That day, I didn't have anybody to tell me that. I was so sad, I was beaten, but this little human told me that, came through him. So every child comes into this with the purpose to help someone, and that's to help you, right? So have kids. It's so important to have kids. That's so important. Unless you can, that's a different story, but you should. But there's a lot of people who are advising. That's sad for me to see. When people advise don't have kids, it's hard.
What would be your three things that you would say to the kid? Because the kid, we've been talking about this as far as like they're in the room. We're talking about them. Hey, it's the administrators that, we need to make sure this, the teachers, we need to do this. The system is broken. The parents need to be parenting. But what do you say to the kid?
Children are children, right? We are the guide. But as far as children, just because your teacher says to do something or it is the way it is, like I always been asking why, all the time. In the beginning, when I asked why, I thought I was the dumbest person in the classroom. Everybody gets it, but I'm asking why. But now I know I was the smartest because I had very good questions nobody could answer. So I should have asked, but of course I don't have that. So I recommend that if you're a child or a student who's listening, a kid, you must ask your why. Be curious. Just because they're adult, they're telling you stuff, you can ask why. Why is it that way? And they get them to tell you, right? And the same way, I'm curious with the students as well. I ask them if they say something, why? Why do you say that? Now we have a conversation, right? So always don't just buy something because somebody's telling you. Just ask them, why are you saying this? How does it work? Why are you saying this? So be curious around anything and everything you hear. And in the school system, if something is not making sense, go see your teacher. Like a lot of the time they shut down. Many students shut down and they say, I'm against the teacher, right? You're not against anybody. So go ask them. They're there to support you. Yes. If you don't show up, they think you don't care. Many teachers do, right? If you don't show up, many teachers think you don't. But if you show up, now you have a relationship. We're going back to that connection again, right? Mm-hmm. Go connect with them as much as possible and tell them, you know what, I want to do good here, but I'm struggling. Can you help me? I know it's hard to open up, but if you start training our students to that, that's what I train my students all the time. The first thing, one of the training is if they don't visit their teachers, go visit them. Now, all my university kids and college kids, they do that with their professors. They say that that's the best thing that they've ever learned, because that relationship itself gives them so much idea on what's going to be on the test, because these coaches, these teachers and professors share things like that when you are involved. When you're not, you just show up to the class and leave. They just know you probably by your name, but maybe even not. You're just a body. Wow. So show up to these teachers, ask help.
So I started the podcast, Kohila, because of my two kids, Maddox and McKenna. McKenna's 15 and Maddox is 13. I didn't want them to worship idols. I just wanted them to be inspired by icons like yourself. You're an iconic person because you're really speaking up and making a difference in something that all of us need help with, every single one of us, no matter if we realize it or not. What advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use both their names, it would be awesome.
Maddox and McKenna, right? Yes, mm-hmm. Maddox and McKenna. I think you should always explore your curiosity and your creativity, because in the school system, right, as you may be going through now, where sometimes you have these creative ideas that may not be valued because, of course, as I said before, you have to go through these curriculums, right? So that one of the things the system does is take out the creativity and the curiosity from our kids. So I would recommend both of them to be always creative. I think they are already, but even more creative. Share your ideas. Don't ever be afraid to share ideas. Don't be ever afraid to ask why somebody says something. Just be curious with them. Be curious yourself and be curious about others. I think you will have a beautiful life. But creativity is so important, and I see that in your kids already, that the way you're bringing them up, I think they're going to be very creative people. So.
Thank you so much, Kohila. Well, it's incredible. Well, like I said, we're going to have all the links and all those things, in the bio, and I would invite every single one of you to check it out, because it's one of the things where, every person, like we're going through it. Our family is going through it. We're looking right now to be able to have, I didn't realize that there was even these type of coaches for, 13-year-olds or 15-year-olds, and we always thought about that bad word, which was tutor. And when I say bad word, it's maybe not bad to us as parents, but to a kid, oh man, I got to get tutored. You're saying that I'm this, or you're saying that I'm that. I've heard this from both of my kids. And I love the fact that there is another option for the kids to be able to go to. But like I said, we'll have all the links for that. Kohila, it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to sit down with you. I appreciate it. I know it was my fault because we were supposed to do this in January. I believe it was January or earlier this year. I had some schedule conflicts, but I appreciate your patience with me, and it has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to announce about our magazine. If people can read that, there's a lot of information that's free. It's a free magazine. I'll share the links for that. That's just launched today, called Parenting, Learning, and Living. And they're not three different things. They're holistically one thing.
That's
right?
awesome.
We can't compartmentalize them. We have to have them together. So that's one. And my nonprofit work that I'm doing. If you know a family that could use this type of coaching for their kids and they don't have the means to it, send them our way. We have free coaching every week for them. So please share that too. Thank you.
That's amazing. So we'll have the links for all those things. Kohila, it's been incredible, and you're officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Achieving, cause we believing it's for certain. We put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting right before your eyes. So it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised.